Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, lumber futures have moved up to a year-long high. In fact, really, if you look back on it, it's about a 2-year high that lumber futures are at right now. And this is not a surprise. We have been talking a lot about this on this channel for over a year, talking about the mill curtailments, inventory depletions, the shutdowns that are happening, and that at some point, if there was any kind of pop to home building demand, you are going to see the prices moving up and moving up in a dramatic fashion. Now, what we have experienced just recently, and something that I had done a video on, is the amount of completions versus the amount of starts that are out there. And I think this is very telling of what's going on within the new construction market. Because if you look at this chart right here, this is, and like I said, I did a video on this just recently. I highlighted in yellow the amount of starts that are happening. In the green, that's the amount of completions. You see this big gap that was taking place right here? That had left a huge inventory depletion within the market itself. Now, you would think with the home starts, right, ramping up, that would start leaving a whole lot of new inventory coming to the market. It does. It does leave some inventory coming to the market. In fact, here's a chart showing in the green, these are the completions that are happening, and you can see in the yellow, these are the starts that are falling. And so right now we have a lot of new constructed homes that are coming onto the market, but what we are not seeing is a lot of new starts coming on. In fact, the starts are depleting while the completions are ramping up. And so when you think about what's coming from the supply-demand side of things that would now cause the prices to move up as far as lumber goes, the demand side has not ramped up. You would see this line right here, this yellow line, it would be moving in the opposite direction. It is going down. This is the demand side. It is not increasing. So if you have a supply-demand imbalance that is causing the prices to move up, and it's not from the demand side of things, what's happening from the supply? Depleting. Right? And now this is something, again, that I have tried to show and explain and talk to people about here on this channel, to keep an eye on the lumber futures market, to keep an eye on those mill curtailments, those shutdowns, and the inventory levels that are out there. This is very difficult for people to see in real time because there's really no chart that you can go to, no website that anybody is going to show you the exact numbers of where the mills are at, how much inventory is out there, what it is that they are charging between them, right? There are some available statistics out there through things like Random Lengths or Madison's Lumber Reporter, but very, very rarely is this communicated out there on the mainstream media. And so for the average person to understand what's taking place within the lumber market, you really have to have somebody who's on the inside, somebody who's working the industry, somebody who could communicate it in a way that says, hey, this is what I am experiencing from boots on the ground, not just like from a reporter who believes that it's coming down to manipulation or greed or, whatever. I mean, they have all kinds of conspiracy theories that has taken place out there. But really, it comes down to the situation that we were facing after the COVID pandemic, in which that the demand for lumber had really ramped up and the ability to complete a house had fallen. That is the bullwhip effect that is now ripping through the housing market. And it is going to continue going into the housing market going into the future. Especially if we run into this situation in which that I believe is coming, in which that these new starts, right, which has been falling, goes the other way and starts to move up. And we have new starts coming into the market in a very dramatic fashion. At the same time, we start seeing completions fall. We would be in a position here within the lumber market where there is just simply not enough inventory to supply to any kind of real dramatic increase in starts, which is going to happen at some point. And if that does take place, there is no other way for lumber prices to move other than to go up, because that is inelastic demand. Like, a lot of times people look at it and say, oh man, lumber prices are too high, just back off and don't purchase any. Well, if you have signed a contract and you are now moving forward with that project, you have no other choice. That is inelastic demand. And if the lumber is just simply not available, you will pay any price to get it. This is exactly what we had experienced back just after COVID, when we saw the lumber prices moving up to that $1,700 per thousand. It was simply due to the fact that there was a huge amount of starts that was happening, but not a lot of inventory to supply all those new starts that were coming to the market. And again, we are now facing a very similar situation where you will find at some point that the builders will get excited. Like, the buyers will start coming to the market in a more profound way. Like right now, we have a situation in which that people are very concerned about the housing market. If they're worried about prices coming down, they're worried about the mortgage rates, they're worried about all this stuff like recessionary pressures that could possibly come, people are very concerned about going out there and buying a new house, or just buying a house in general, whether it's new or not. Just going out there and buying a house. Well, if you're a builder who is saying, okay, well, I'm sitting in a market right now where there's a lot of completions, right? This is the chart of completions. Completions are now ramped up and starts have fallen. If you're in a position in which that you are a builder and you're thinking, okay, if I put this house out there on the market, how quickly or how easily will it sell? And if you are going up against a bunch of other people who are completing houses right now, how likely are you going to be to go out there and say, yeah, I want to start a new house right now? Probably not very prevalent within the mindset of the builders out there when they're seeing completions that are coming onto the market. You're seeing the housing market fairly compromised. You're seeing prices coming down. You think of the idea of a recessionary pressures coming. This does not encourage the builders to go out there and begin those new starts. And if they aren't going out there to start, then why would it be that the suppliers out there are going to supply into a demand that is non-existent? So what's happening here? Why do we see lumber prices moving up? It's not coming up from demand side. Demand's falling right here. You can see it with the starts. So why is prices moving up? You have two issues, supply and demand. Demand's not moving up. Supply must be falling. And again, this is something that we have been talking about a lot on this channel, trying to communicate all the mill curtailments, the shutdowns, the inventory depletions, all that stuff that is now existing within this market that you're not going to be able to see in real time. Unless you are in the industry itself, you are following particular, I would say, like, people who are in the game. If you could find a broker out there who deals in lumber, if you could find somebody who works the mill, find somebody who's driving the truck, Madison's Lumber Reporter, Random Lengths, these are the people who are in the game, but they are not very well known out there within the mainstream media, out there known within the economy. And because people don't understand of what it is that's happening out there within the mill inventory levels, the production that is happening, the shutdowns, the tariffs, all these, a combination of all this stuff that now comes into the market at the same time leaves people believing that it's now corporate greed or manipulation or something of that nature. Really, this is a rippling effect that has been taking place even before the pandemic. I mean, those of you who have followed me on my channel for any length of time, we were talking about mill curtailments, inventory shutdowns, and depletions taking place all throughout 2019. Which left the mills in a very compromised position. When the pandemic kicked in, and all of a sudden you had this huge ramping up of starts, there wasn't enough lumber in the system to provide to all those starts. And we had a huge, huge jump in prices. Now think about it. We are sitting again in a very compromised position when it comes to the inventory levels of these mills within the industry itself. And that the starts have fallen dramatically, which leaves these mills in a position in which that says, hey, we don't want to provide into no demand. So supply falls. Prices are moving up. Give it any kind of pop to demand, and these prices are going to move up. There's very little doubt in my mind. You can actually see that now taking place right within the lumber futures. Keep an eye on this until the beginning of the year. And when you see at the beginning of the year, during a time in which that most new construction has met its low, because really new starts wants to take place during the summer when you have better weather, here we have a slowdown with new construction starts, and you're going to see prices moving up. Why? not on the demand side. It's coming from the lack of supply. Uneducated economist. You guys let me know.